Tonight, someone will step outside a bar, light a cigarette, and feel instantly calmer. It seems modern. It seems like a habit built for stress and convenience and 15-minute breaks. But the real answer is far stranger. Your ancestors were doing something startlingly similar over 3,000 years ago. Not for a nicotine hit between meetings, for something much deeper. Let's go back, way back. Long before tobacco had a name, before it crossed an ocean, before anyone had ever heard the word cigarette, humans in the Americas were already inhaling burning plants on purpose. Not by accident, not from wildfire smoke drifting through a cave, on purpose, ritually, again and again. Archaeologists have found smoking pipes at sites in the Americas dating back roughly 3,000 years. Some evidence suggests plant burning for inhalation goes back even further, tangled up with early fire use itself. Humans figured out fire. And almost immediately, it seems, humans figured out that breathing in what fire produces could change how they felt. Why would anyone do that on purpose? Here's where it gets interesting. This wasn't recreational. Not in the way you might picture a modern smoke break. For early peoples in the Americas, tobacco was medicine. It was ceremony. It was a bridge to something larger than the self. Anthropologist Johannes Wilbert spent decades studying tobacco use among indigenous groups in South America, and his research revealed something remarkable. Shamans would smoke enormous quantities of tobacco, far beyond anything a casual user would touch, specifically to induce altered states, not to relax, to transform. The smoke was a tool for crossing a threshold, from ordinary awareness into something the community believed connected them to ancestors, spirits, and the natural world. Your brain still remembers how to do this, not consciously, but the pathways nicotine and other plant alkaloids activate, the ones tied to dopamine, to alertness, to a temporary shift in mood, those pathways are ancient. They didn't appear when tobacco was invented. They were already there, waiting. Think about that for a second. Your ancestors weren't inventing a new pleasure. They were discovering a shortcut into a system that already existed in the human brain. So what were they actually smoking? Tobacco, yes, but also a wider menu of plants most people today have never heard of. Compounds burned in ritual pipes across the Americas included various psychoactive plants beyond tobacco, some documented, some lost to time. Different regions had different blends. Different rituals called for different smoke. In North America, calumets, the ceremonial pipes sometimes mistakenly called peace pipes, were used in negotiations, alliances, and spiritual rites. Passing the pipe wasn't a casual gesture, it was a binding act. Breathing the same smoke as another person meant something. It sealed agreements. It marked kinship. Here's the twist most people miss entirely. Smoking wasn't originally about the individual at all. It was about the group. One pipe, passed hand to hand, breath to breath. Compare that to now. A single person, alone, stepping outside a building, smoking by themselves, often looking at a phone. The act has survived for thousands of years, but its meaning has almost completely inverted. Why did something so communal become something so solitary? Part of the answer lies in what happened after 1492, when European sailors encountered tobacco in the Caribbean and along the American coasts. They didn't just observe it, they took it home. And once tobacco crossed the Atlantic, it stopped being a ritual object tied to specific ceremonies and became something else entirely, a commodity. Historian Jordan Goodman, who studied the global spread of tobacco in depth, has described how remarkably fast the plant moved once it left the Americas. Within roughly a century, tobacco had reached Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. No other psychoactive substance in history spread across the globe that quickly. Sailors picked up the habit. Traders carried seeds. Within a few generations, tobacco farms were operating on multiple continents, and smoking had shifted from sacred to social to, eventually, simply routine. This is the moment the meaning fractured. In the Americas, tobacco had rules. It had context. It was tied to healers, elders, specific ceremonies, specific seasons. Once it became a traded good, most of that context fell away. What remained was the chemical effect, the habit, the feeling. And humans, it turns out, are extremely good at keeping the feeling and discarding the meaning. By the 1600s, smoking had become entangled with colonial economies in ways that reshaped entire regions. Tobacco plantations, built substantially on enslaved labor, turned a ceremonial plant into an engine of profit. The ritual object had become a cash crop. Something once used to speak with ancestors was now being used to build empires. Fast forward again. The next major shift didn't come from ritual or trade. It came from a machine. In the late 1800s, the invention of cigarette rolling machinery changed everything. Before this, smoking, especially cigars and pipes, took time, money, and often some skill to prepare. After mechanization, cigarettes could be produced by the millions, packaged uniformly, and sold cheaply. Smoking stopped being occasional. It became constant. Historian Alan Brandt, who researched the rise of cigarette culture in America, has documented how quickly this new, mass-produced product reshaped daily habits across entire populations within just a few decades. What had taken thousands of years to spread as a ritual took less than 100 to become a daily routine for hundreds of millions of people. So here's the strange part. The urge someone feels right now, reaching for a cigarette after a stressful phone call, is running on circuitry your ancestors were already activating 3,000 years ago in a completely different context. Same brain chemistry, same alkaloids doing similar work, but almost none of the original meaning survived the journey. What was once a ceremony shared among a tribe is now, for many people, 5 minutes alone with a small burning object and a phone screen. What was once reserved for shamans crossing into altered states is now available at every corner store, wrapped in plastic, sold in packs of 20. Does that make it less real? Not exactly. The relief people describe, the brief sense of calm, the ritual of lighting up, all of that is genuine. It's just been stripped down to its rawest ingredient. The chemistry survived. The community didn't. Maybe that's worth sitting with the next time you see someone light a cigarette, or maybe even if you're the one lighting it. You're not doing something new. You're doing something extremely old, dressed in modern packaging, disconnected from almost everything that once gave it meaning. So tonight, when someone steps outside a bar and lights a cigarette, feeling instantly calmer, it won't seem modern at all. It'll seem like the oldest habit humans have never fully let go of.